Snowden. Meanwhile, Russia has confirmed that Snowden is at the international transit area in Moscow's international airport. It is indeed a face-off between United States, China and Russia. Well, a very warm welcome to Newsnight, your one-stop destination for news and analysis on the day's biggest news stories. Tonight we get you reports from Ground Zero in Uttarakhand of the ongoing relief and rescue operations despite a fatal accident yesterday killing all 20 rescue personnel on board an IAF chopper. And with United States facing off with China and Russia over Edward Snowden, we ask, has the United States cyber snooping risked another gust of the Cold War? I'm Munmun. First up, the headlines. Bodies of 17 focus tonight. Almost 3,500 of those stranded in Uttarakhand were rescued today, but close to 3,300 people are still marooned. Meanwhile, bodies of 5 more rescue personnel who died in the Indian Air Force chopper crash yesterday have been recovered, taking the bodies recovered to 17 out of a total of 20 casualties.
Relief written all over the faces of these. Report, DD News.
So that indeed is the big question you're asking tonight. Has the US cyber snooping risked another gust of the Cold War? To discuss that, we are joined by Alok Bansal, Senior Land Warfare Studies, and also Prabhat P. Shukla, former ambassador to Russia. Welcome you both to Newsnight. Let me begin with you, Mr. Bansal. Is it a throwback to Cold War?
He has not broken any Russian laws. It comes immediately after talks between US and Russia broke off on Syria. As you know, till yesterday the talks were going on for coming to some sort of a settlement in Syria, which broke off yesterday.
But today, he arrived in Moscow Sunday morning.
Yeah. No, he arrived, but the statement of President Putin which came today, which are very significant, where he says people like Assange and...
in Russia for quite some time. No one has spotted Snowden in the international transit area in the Moscow International Airport, but Russia claims he is very much there. What laws will apply to him? Will Russian domestic laws apply to him because he's still not technically in Russian territory, or will international laws apply to him?
Look, let's go back a bit. The first thing that I would point out is that I think the speculation that we are about to witness a new Cold War is highly overblown.
Immediately to United States, because then this huge debate, once his trial starts, will get aggravated. So I think even from US point of view, it makes sense that this issue gets buried and soon some other activities take place and people, this actually goes into the background, and then probably some deal would be worked out between the countries and probably he may be whisked away wherever he goes. Al-Qaeda and many radical outfits have changed the format of their communications. They are changing their systems of communications. But this is primarily for the domestic public opinion that what he has done has actually caused a great...
To portray him as a villain
traitor.
Before...
Absolutely. To portray him as a traitor. Though, to my mind, it is very difficult that within a day they...
Either appropriate or misappropriate name for the venue where the Xi Jinping Obama summit took place. Now, I think they have, you know, the way the whole thing happened, the moment he was sprung, he flew to Hong Kong. Clearly there was some prior planning. So I think the Americans were within their rights to expect that the Chinese would not allow him to go away to some third country. Now, as to whether he is in Russia or not, look, I know one thing. President Putin wouldn't bluff. If he says he is there, whether there is an eyewitness to corroborate or not, I would conclude that he is there. And by the way, I know of cases where people have spent...
This time the pressure from United States is enormous. A large number of Ecuadorian exports actually are bound for United States of America. US gives them preferential treatment. So to that extent, I think US can bring up United States of America. And I think
it won't lose an opportunity to thumb its nose at United States.
I think amongst the Latin American community, it gives it a chance to show that yes, it is independent and it can probably show a thumb to the United States of America.
You are saying that this will blow over, but just wanted your opinion on whether you think any of the players here are acting in the interest of principles, or is it simply clever diplomacy at play?
Oh dear, that's a big ask.
That's the last word as well.
No, look, principles are important. They play a certain role, but they are always tempered by realism, a sense of what is attainable, and a sense of limits that each side has to observe.
Because Ecuador has just recently imposed limits on press freedom.
I want to go back to one other point that you raised, and I think it's an important point. Whether the United States is losing its clout, its influence. I think it's important to choose the point from which you are using your departure. If you use the end of the Cold War, the early 90s, as your point of comparison, then yes, you could make the case that the United States doesn't have the kind of worldwide influence that it had.
Okay, well, so in a way you have stuck your neck out on that one, but on that note I thank you, Prabhat Shukla as well as Alok Bansal, for joining us on News 9. So for starters, at Snowden, will it be going to United States, or will he eventually get political asylum either by Ecuador or by Venezuelan government? Well, we'll swim to a break now, but we'll be back with much more on the other side. There's a lot more waiting for you. Please don't go anywhere. News Night is a look at what else is making news across the country.
In Jammu and Kashmir, Pakistani troops today violated ceasefire along line of control in Poonch sector of Jammu.
Karunanidhi's daughter Kanimoi has the support of the Congress party for a Rajya Sabha seat. All eyes are now on whether the DMK and the Congress will come together before the big battle in 2014.
The stage is set
Against the US dollar, it has crossed the 60 mark today.
Yet another historic low for the Indian rupee against the US dollar.
That pricing of spectrum for the forthcoming auction be referred to the TRAI. The Telecom Regulatory Authority of India is likely to give recommendations within the next 60 days. Telecom Minister Kapil Sibal has said that the government is very keen to start the third round of auctions.
It was decided that
Taken by the government against money laundering and terror financing activities, the Financial Action Task Force has lauded the Indian government's efforts. In its 46-page status report on India, the Paris-based inter-government body said that the country has substantially addressed the deficiencies in its regulatory framework and has become largely compliant with global standards in this regard.
The Global Anti-Money Laundering Agency Financial Action Task Force has decided to remove
drugs for those who are addicted to them. But Ratan Singh of Soram in Manipur has set an example of de-addiction. Here is a special report by correspondent Sudhir Yadav.
a living example of the saying, if there is a will, there is a way. Soram Ratan Singh of Imphal has quit taking drugs, all thanks to his grit and sheer willpower. And on Anti-Drug Addiction Day, the President conferred the National Award for Exemplary.
We will be back tomorrow. Don't forget to write to us. Our Twitter handle is DD News Night. Thanks for watching.